Time now for today's focus. It takes us to Russia, where the World Cup is about to get underway on Thursday. Russia organised the most expensive Olympic Games in history in Sochi in 2014 and is again smashing records, spending almost €9 billion on the football championship. Of the 12 stadiums to be used, 9 were built from scratch. But costs rose rapidly and construction work fell far behind schedule, with stadiums still under construction just a week ago. Some questions over security standards. Elena Volochin and Thomas Lowe report.
It's the day of the test match at the stadium in Samara. Behind this imposing shell are a long series of scandals which delayed the completion of this arena by a year and 4 months. Today, however, those in charge are trying to sound reassuring.
Everybody knows it, and no one is trying to deny that the construction of the SAMARA arena was behind schedule. But as I often say, in football everything is decided at the end of the match, in extra time. And for us too, that extra time is going to be more than enough to finish our work and pull off a victory.
A victory that cost the former governor his job. The cost of the stadium has risen to €70 million, but it still doesn't adhere to security standards. The federal body in charge has filed several complaints against the construction company. 8 days before the World Cup begins, and construction work continues around the stadium. Workers are also finishing a fence more than 2 meters high that will hide the houses all along the road to the stadium, much to the distaste of the locals.
Maybe it will shelter us from the noise, but I'd be surprised. A metal fence can't protect us from the noise. They were supposed to install sound insulation blocks, in fact, plastic ones. I saw them myself in the planning project, but I have no idea why they didn't install them.
Fences. And facades freshly painted all along the tourist routes. They were neglected for decades before the World Cup came along. Volunteers even took the initiative 3 years ago to restore some houses in the city centre themselves. This is one of them, 150 years old.
The situation before the World Cup was an absolute disaster. Only a few houses were restored each year, but there are thousands of historic houses like these in the city. Now, with the World Cup, in some cases, it's all done in 2 hours. They splash paint on the facades, including the windows, just so the people driving by have the impression it's a job well done.
Andrei is upset at this destruction of the city's heritage, but also at the lack of a long-term development plan for Samara.
I'm going to show you 2 identical buildings, same architecture, built in the 80s. The one on the right can be seen from the main road, where the tourist circuit goes by. On the other hand, the one without the paint job isn't visible from the main road. Once the World Cup is over, I'll be very interested to see what will be on the agenda for Samara. I'm afraid our city will be forgotten again, because over the last 5 years, even the lowliest sandpit has been unveiled just because the World Cup's coming up.
And some projects were clearly a little too ambitious. Sheremetyevo, the largest airport in the Russian capital. A 3rd runway was supposed to be opened here for the World Cup. Yet the project won't be finished in time, despite a near doubling of the cost. Locals that live in these 3 villages backing onto the future runway are still waiting to be able to move house.
Here are the homes, and here's the construction equipment. We've basically been living on the runway they're building since 2012.
According to the initial plans, they should have received their compensation from 2015. But to date, they've received nothing but promises.
We've had to resign ourselves to living next to a runway that's under construction. And it seems no one plans to buy our land or houses from us before that runway is put into use.
As for Natalia, she doesn't hold out any hope of leaving her house. The state has decided to only buy back part of her land.
From this tree here, and then diagonally across to over there, in the middle of a neighbour's house, they're taking all of that. Of course, we went to the lawyers, and they all told us, you can't fight against the state. And they're right. We've lost all our court cases. We were told, live however you like, but we'll be taking that part of the land from you. The state needs it.
The World Cup, a matter of state for Vladimir Putin. A moment to let Russia shine on the world stage, whatever the cost.